So my name is Simon Brown, and today we're looking at Wednesday, Know Your Platforms. We're going to be looking at research reports on the online share trading platform, as and when they are published, how to find them, how to make use of them, etc., etc. They're on the menu, and we'll come to a couple of ways to find them, but mostly on the menu under Tools, Research, and there are 4 areas: detailed forecasts, analyst reports, economic and technical analysis. The detailed forecasts are essentially the consensus forecasts, and they're giving a fairly simple view of what we can expect: dividends 1, 2, and 3 years out, earnings 1, 2, and 3 years out, and then from that point further, looking at the current ranking. Now, I'm going to delve into this page so we can get more information and more understanding in the details. That is a fairly sort of top-line set of numbers, but it does give us a bit of idea. This is just a screenshot. You can go and search for the particular stocks you're looking for. This does it across all of those that are available. And you will see sometimes the data isn't complete for one or another reason, and that's because perhaps there aren't analysts and the like. And I'm going to get into that in a bit more. So that's your detailed forecast. Your analyst reports are fundamental from Mercantech and SPG Securities, technical from Andrew and Garth at Traders Corner. The economic is not being updated, and then technical analysis, which is essentially the same reports that go into the analyst report. So let's head along to the website. And let's find them here. Nope, I wanted that button. So those are them, and let's quickly go to analyst reports. And what you can see here is, they're being uploaded. Yesterday there were 3 uploads, and typically what we're going to find is that there will be, for example, the technical analysis. This comes out just ahead of the morning open. This is from the Traders Corners, and this is just looking at the top 40 futures. As we go down, we can see a report on the Investec Property Fund, particularly focusing on their loan to value, relative rating, etc. And if you go across, you'll see you can open it, you can save it, and if it's giving a recommendation. Now, in the case of the Investec, not, but then Barlow World, out with the old, in with the new, recommendation is a hold. Daily Standard, which is a daily report that comes out, and you can go and delve into them, see what's available. You can also go and search if you're looking for particular ones, if you're looking for a particular stock, as the case may be. And I see a question coming through already. How good are the reports? Well, so I'm going to answer that a couple of ways. The Financial Mail does an annual survey every year looking at, excuse me, looking at research houses, and SPG is consistently ranked up at the top. So they're quality. Are they right? Well, no. Things change, things happen, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm not going to for a second suggest that they're perfect. My use for them, more than anything, yes, the buys, the sells, the holds are interesting, but often I find by reading the reports, I learn things about the company, and that's simply because it just, it's an analyst with a different view, different perspective, perhaps almost certainly knows the company better than me. So oftentimes I'll go and I'll be able to find it and get a sense of about the business and how they operate. You'll note some of them are coming from Mercantech, who focus on small and mid caps. Excuse me, whereas SPG are going to be focusing on the large caps. So that is the first menu item there. So the second, analyst reports, and that's across the range. So what you see here is that you're getting the technical reports. You're getting all of them floating there. The tech analysis is literally just the technical analysis reports. So that, again, from Traders Corner, typically at least 1 a day. Some days there will be 2 of them coming out, a top 40, and then during the course of the day, something else in terms of a stock. You can see that early in the week they did the Shanghai Composite weekly. Yeah, sure. Question if we can go back a page. So open a new tab. It wants to save it. I don't want to. Okay, it will save it down there. It's going to mess with my screens. Nope, there it came in its own tab anyway. The reports are short and sweet. I mean, they're not 20 pages. They're two. The second page is literally all the disclaimer. And it just, it gives you a fair bit of information. In this case, this is the Oceana Group. Date of publication of the report, always important. Target prices are for 12 months' time. And that's very important to understand. And then the buy or sell rating is relative to overall market. But in this case, looking at the Standard Bank view on Oceana, who had results out, was it mid-ish May or something like that, some information about them relative to the all share performance, etc., etc. So fairly detailed. As I said, I like them because you'll pick up some information that perhaps you just simply weren't aware of before. There is, as I had here, other from the quotes page, research reports and detailed forecasts. So let's go back to a stock, and I doubt we have anything on Oceana, but let's see. So here you'll see the research reports, and there is the Oceana one. And to the question earlier, so they've had Oceana as a buy and then a hold and then before a buy, and way back in 2012 it was a sell. So you can get a sense of a couple of points here. Firstly, what the change has been from SPG Securities, but also you can get excuse me, you can go back and read those earlier reports and get ideas of what the thinking was, why the changes were happening, etc. The other research we have, which is what we call detailed forecasts. Now, a bunch around detailed forecasts, and the first point I'm going to do, which is the disclaimer, which you can find all lurking down at the bottom down there. These are the views of the analyst community. And what I mean by that is understand how they are compiled. Done by a third party, in this case, Profile Media, Profile Data, Profile Media. And what they do is they will poll analysts and say, what is your view on, and there's a range of stocks. There's a whole big range of stocks that they'll be asking about, and what is the sense? Is this good, bad, or ugly, etc., etc. And they ask basically 3 questions. What do you expect headline earnings to be for the current and 2 following financial years? So in this case of Oceana, the year will be to September 2020, and then 21, and then 22. They also then ask, what is the expected dividend that you're expecting? Again, for current full financial year, and then the following 2 financial years as well. And then they ask the question of, is this a buy, a sell, or a hold? In other words, what is your recommendation on it? So 3 fairly simple questions, updated on a weekly basis if and when there's changes. I mean, they will contact them on a weekly basis, but that change might not necessarily always come through. And what we get is a couple of things. So firstly, we get a buy, sell, or hold recommendation. Consensus view is sell. Well, it could also be a hold, so it's a sort of halfway between hold and sell. Interestingly, contradicts with SPG Securities. But here's the important point. Number of contributions. There's only 2 here. So that's not very many. Now, on a stock such as Oceana, that's not unexpected to only see 2. You'll often get a much lower number for the smaller stocks. And the bigger stocks, you'll start getting 6, 8, maybe in some cases 10. Of course, the less people there are, the less of a consensus it really, really is. What you then get is the high and the low estimate. Now, because there are 2, we know, well, one person put in 544 and one person put in 557. In other words, they're actually quite close to each other. Standard deviation in terms of cents, which is 6.5. And in fact, there's a fair bit of consistency going through over the years, which then says Profile Media consensus, headline earnings per share for the full year is going to be R5.50 and a half. Percentage change from previous year, that then says, okay, so at current share price, what would the PE be, etc. Here it just shows you some information in terms of what it's been versus where it's been going. And then same with dividends. Now on the dividend, we've got a little more variance here. The high is 420, the low is 381, and that variance slips away for September 21 and for September 22, where that variance starts to become, frankly, quite very, very small at all. Dave, is there tracking of historic performance of the consensus contributors? No, there is not. You could do it manually. Well, there is a bit at the bottom. I'll get to that in a moment. But in the sense that you're talking about, no. I mean, someone would have to do it. And the point being is we don't know who they are as well. So there's currently 2 here. And let's say the one person, I don't know, retires, goes on, extended leave or something. And then is replaced by somebody else. We would be unaware that there's been a switch out of people. If we come tomorrow and there are 3, we might think that, oh, there's a new person. Well, it might be 3 new people. So the consistency in that sense. And that is always what that consensus forecast is aimed to be, where it really is just, in a sense, an anonymous and a consensus forecast coming through. Here we've got peer analysis, so focusing on, in this case, Oceana. So we've got AVI, Astral, Libstar, RCL, Sea Harvest, and Tiger Brands. And some of those, Libstar, Tiger Brands, and AVI, less so, although AVI does have INJ in it. RCL and Astral, obviously focusing on chickens. Sea Harvest, spot on. So HEPS forecast growth, price earnings, forecast growth, dividend, and then dividend yield at the same time. The historic PE range is just giving you a sense of what that PE has traded through over the last 5 years. This chart as illustrated here, so I'm trying to get my zoom working, there we go. This chart as illustrated here is nice, but basically it's saying, okay, low PE, low estimate, so in other words, the low of the PE range and the low of the headline earnings per share range brings it out at about $70 versus a high PE, in other words, high average PE, and the high average for the earnings per share, headline earnings per share estimate would then generate that value. Nice, but not a massive amount of practical use. So to my mind, this has always just had too many if, buts, and maybes in the equation. I quite like this one. And what they do, and this comes to a degree to the question asked, difference between actual headline earnings per share forecast and what happened. In other words, what they do is they grab a snapshot 30 days earlier and say, well, this is what the consensus was saying 30 days earlier, and then the results came. What did the results say relative? So this does give you a sense of what the story was and their sort of expectations / abilities to predict. And then this is one I quite like as well, which is the earnings consensus for Oceana as it is changing over time. So it goes back to 240 days ago. What's that, about 8 months? Obviously, Oceana is relatively new, otherwise it would have been here for longer. And how have we seen that consensus changing over time? So you can see whether that is trending higher or lower. And of course, we're going to get vastly different for different stocks. Let's see if we've got Barlow World. Yep, okay, Barlow World is fun. One problem I'll come to in a sec. So Barlow World is fun. We've got 2 holds, 1 buy, and then a 4th person who hasn't given a recommendation, but we are getting 4 analysts. The medium profile is 899. Standard deviation is $1.96. Call it 2 rand. So some fairly big differences there. What I'm noting with the issue is that this chart here is not updated. We should be focusing on September 20, so the 19 should have fallen away by now. Again, an expectation of how well they've done relative, and again, how well it's been going. You note this one goes back 300 days. That's what I was missing on the earlier. So it actually goes back further in time. How those analysts have been changing, down on where they were 10 months ago, but trending up compared to 7, 30, 60, 90. In fact, the last time they were this high was 180 days ago, which is 6 months ago, which is interestingly smack bang at the beginning of the year. So that is literally the four of them. As I said, the economic is currently not being updated. There is two from January, but then we go back to 2018. So that is simply not happening at this point. So don't stress that. The last point I want to look at is the buy-sell consensus, which is under market info. And that link is not working. It clicks, it goes, it says I'm coming, and it says I'm waiting. Okay, while we're going to take some questions, but I'm going to come to this quickly here. Right down at the bottom, and again to the question of how good are they. So that's the detailed forecast. Right down at the bottom down here, what we have got is the recommendation, just quite nice and simple. It's a hold. What that will be, so it's taking the current share price and then dividing the expected dividends, the expected earnings per share, and therefore pulling out a forward PE, earnings yield, and dividend yield. Of course, the issue here is this going to happen? And there's a lot of if, buts, and maybes as we look further into the future. Here's the button I was looking for: forecast history. Now remember, this is consensus forecast for Barlow World. So up until 27 April, it was a buy recommendation. It then went into a hold, and it is currently still a hold. Before that, it was a buy from Feb 2020, and before that, it was a sell. So actually, Barlow World had been a sell and then a hold. So you can get a sense, and what you can do is now take this information, only going back to January of last year, you can now take this information and get a sense of, put it over a price chart if you want and see how it's been working. Remember, it is looking at 12-month view. I want to see. Yeah, back to March of last year. So it's only giving us about a year and some change data in that space there. Let's go back to that buy-sell consensus. Folks, if you've got questions, drop them into the Q&A box. There we go. Here's the page I was looking for. So this is sort by company. You can also sort by sector or earnings up, recommendation changes, etc., etc. A whole bunch of different ways to search. Currently by company, so therefore it is alphabetical. Anchor code, the company details, current 1 year expected, previous, there wasn't dividend. So in case of Anchor, there hasn't been a previous. Current recommendation is a buy from Anchor. AEEI and then AECI, which is Afrox. Sorry, Afrox is nope, Afrox is not there. No, I thought I saw Afrox jumping out at me. So if you go to the big ones, for example, Anglo. So current is 36.59, and that is down from 37.84. Recommendation still a buy. And this is nice. It just gives you a quick overview. And what you can sort by is, as I say, recommendation changes. Where they've gone, so we can see Brait gone from a hold to a sell. So AVR's gone from a sell to a hold to buy for EPP, that's the Polish property company, etc. Some have just come in with buys that didn't previously have. Looking for downgrades. Nope. Currents, no, they've all actually been, currently, they've all been upgraded or have remained flat. What does or what criteria you use to show either buy, sell, or hold? So that is literally just saying to the analysts who do the profile consensus, Ross, what is your view on the stock, buy, sell, or hold? There, and the way we work a buy, sell, or hold in the industry is, what is your expectation for this share relative to the market over the next 12 months? So if you expect it to do better, so the analyst will have a baseline for the market. Let's say they expect the market to do 10%. Therefore, if they expect the stock to do more than 10% over the 12 months, it's a buy. If they expect the stock to do 10%, it's a hold. And even if the stock is going to do 5%, which is still positive, it underperforms the market, therefore it's a sell. So the two important points, Ross, is it is over a 1 year period and it is relative to the market as a whole. My view on Pembury, PGL Group. I'm assuming you're talking about Pembury. I wouldn't touch it if you paid me. They've got all sorts of issues. The share, is it still trading? Yeah, the share is trading. Oh no, share is really, it's been suspended again. Yeah, education stock, but they came to market with lots of excitement, but nothing happening there. I didn't realize they had once again been suspended, although I'm not seeing the announcement for it. But I didn't like it on listing. It was too. So they had some retirement villages, and the retirement villages I was quite interested in, but then they went and listed their education, and we have better quality education. Les, what do the green and red figures tell you? Let me go back to there. Just telling you it's down. So if it's red, it's down on where it was previously. Ditto there for the dividend, down on where it was previously. And green, well, in that case, obviously green, because the previous for Sasfin was 0. In other words, there wasn't a view. Here's one. GTCSA was 278.6, now 298.1, so therefore green, and again done by the arrow. Simon, what is the consensus on Sasol, you ask? Let's go have a look-see. Consensus on Sasol is a buy. And has